𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 said he could help. He's a southpaw. He understood how important it is to
Man,
be more offensive right now, because I'm saying it right now. I said it yesterday. Shakur Stevens is not going to be one of the guys that people want to fight because of the defensive prowess. And he has to get hungrier like Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard and Sugar Shane Mosley also had this characteristics, Otis, and you know it. He was trying to knock you out in the 12th round still. Winning means nothing to the fans. They want to see what makes you different than them. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to not get hit, but what makes you different is what made Tyson different. Mm-hmm. Because he wanted to knock you out here every punch. That's why everybody's trying to learn the phases of the peekaboo. Because the peekaboo is an offensive style. It's meant to break through every facet. I'm looking at Mike Tyson right now on my wall. It's meant to break through whatever you're putting up as defense. So that's why it takes a guy who has a natural emotion, a natural, like Zab Judah, mean. He just had a little
wins championships and offense sells tickets.
Yes.
Exactly. Hey, but a testimony to what you're saying though, is the same thing I was thinking about when you were talking about your fighter going into the gym. The reason that he was able to do that while he's out of shape is the foundation of everything that he was taught by your science. You know, when you have that, you're able to go in there and say, okay, I'm not in shape, but I know when to fight in spots. I'm not in shape, but I know how to take advantage or handicap this style that I'm fighting. You know, so it really all goes into the science of boxing.
Yeah, and one of the things, Otis, what made it really apparent to fighter is I teach them how to fight in the worst situations. Like they will be in the corner. I'm like, now bend your knees and then take your shoulder and shove it into his sternum and then rake. And now you're back you got leverage back and your back's against the wall. Now we're going to just spin. You're going to spin, use the lowest weight and spin. Like I taught them those things. So they never felt like they were in trouble when they were fighting each other. You know, even though I got so much great sparring. Like you get to see, and I know you got to do it too, because you super, super technical and aware. But they learned each little phase because see, I got to see, and just like you did, legends teach that shit. They talking about things in the gym you're not even thinking about exist. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not even like. And I'll never forget the day that I knew I didn't know shit about boxing, and when he said we had that event and Adams, Bradley, Fleming, Coach Fleming, Smitty, Coach Smitty, all these giants, Keith Thurman, Coach, all was at the thing, and I'm like, yo, because say even fight, he said, well, he gonna come short soon because he ain't even a real southpaw. I was like, how the hell you know he ain't no real southpaw? This shit is battle toe-to-toe war. He said, look at his front toe.
Yep.
And I was like,
that's important to know. I remember sparring Chad Dawson and feeling his jab and being like, oh my God, I cannot keep getting hit by that. Like it feels like a telephone pole hitting me or whatever, right? Yeah. And then I was like, why is his jab so heavy? And I started looking at his feet. Like while we were in the ring, I would circle him. I would look, and I was like, he's not really a southpaw.
I tell guys who can fight, and you coming into boxing, that's not going to translate because you got to learn how to collect data too. That's a part of the sport, and you will get beaten up like your worst nightmare if you don't understand that coming into boxing with that fighting shit, and vice versa. When you get into prize fighting, you can't just be boxing like Shakur Stevens. All that boxing and no fighting. is not going to cut it. And you got to understand how to adopt those styles where you can turn that around. So an output fighter who's a natural fighter learns to box. And I said, you can go back and watch the show. The show was like 7 minutes, 7 minutes. I did a fight show. I said, whoever adopts the other person's style best will win that fight against Devin Haney and Garcia. And Ryan Garcia became, because he's an output fighter, he go get the smoke. He became a person who also knows how to get in the shell and set traps. He did it better than Devin, who's an input fighter, was able to learn how to be a fighter. So Ryan was better at being an input fighter than Devin was being an output fighter, which is adopting new characteristics. But whoever adopts the other person's style best will win that fight against Devin Haney and Garcia. And Ryan Garcia became, because he's an output fighter, he go get the smoke. He became a person who also knows how to get in the shell and set traps. He did it better than Devin, who's an input fighter, was able to learn how to be a fighter. So Ryan was better at being an input fighter than Devin was being an output fighter, which is adopting new characteristics for who you are naturally. And that's what happened. I did the pre-fight, I did the post-fight. It all lined up. That's the science of boxing. Get it? So
over the history of boxing, who do you think has more wins than championships? Output fighters or input fighters?
Input fighters will do it better because they do it longer. So when you look at Archie Moore, he was an input fighter with output characteristics. He developed offense better as he went on, because he fought more of his fights as he was older because people were not giving him fights because he didn't surrender to the mafia, because the mafia ran boxing in the early 40s and 50s, and he didn't buy into that. So they ousted him out, and so everybody else didn't want the smoke because they were like, "You too damn good." And so Sugar Ray Robinson, who was an output fighter with finesse, was also calculated with it, but he was 5'11" in the welterweight division, which was bigger than most of those guys. He was over Jake LaMotta 6 inches, 5 inches with the reach and the power and the footwork and the athleticism. And over the course of time, the output fighter is not going to have a longevity career. Tyson at 50-some fights, because his first 30 was almost first round knockouts. He fought 15 fights in 1 year.
Yeah.
So you got to do it fast when you're a fighter because you're going to get hit more. So that's just knowledge. It's like, is a running back who runs straight up the middle going to have a better career than a guy who uses his feet in his mind? Like, no, it's not. Tony Dorsett used his feet. When you look at Emmitt Smith, he used his feet. Barry Sanders, he was going to juke you. He's not going to run over you. Your career as a run over you kind of back, John Riggins, Larry Campbell, you're going to have 6 or 7 of the dopest years in the world. But you ain't Earl Campbell, all that shit. Yeah, that don't last. That's just anything, though. It's just more cumulative damage. That's it. You gotta fucking use your brain. And sometimes guys like Cam Newton, he just kept wanting to take more hits. He kept wanting to run over the damn linebackers. That shit pays off. It doesn't pay off. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You got to learn how to slide